July 19, 2022. 2,343 hours. Kherson, southern Ukraine. The Antonovsky Bridge, 1.4 kilometers of concrete and steel spanning the Dnipro River, stands intact. For 5 months, this bridge has been Russia's lifeline. Everything Russian forces west of the Dnipro need flows across this bridge: ammunition, fuel, food, reinforcements, medical evacuations, command and control. The bridge connects 25,000 to 30,000 Russian troops in Kherson to their supply bases in Crimea and eastern Ukraine. Without this bridge, those forces are isolated, trapped, vulnerable. 2,343 hours. 6 streaks of light arc across the night sky. HIMARS rockets. M31 guided munitions, each weighing 306 pounds, each guided by GPS to within 5 meters of target. All 6 impact the bridge deck within seconds of each other. Explosions, smoke, fire. When the smoke clears, the bridge deck has multiple craters. Structural damage is severe. The bridge is not destroyed completely, but it's damaged. Traffic cannot flow normally. Repairs will be needed. And this is just the first strike. Over the next 2 months, Ukrainian forces will strike the Antonovsky Bridge repeatedly, and the Antonovsky Railway Bridge, and the Nova Kakhovka Dam crossing. Every route Russian forces can use to supply their troops west of the Dnipro. HIMARS will hit these crossings again and again. Russia will attempt repairs again and again. Ukraine will destroy the repairs again and again, until Russian forces west of the Dnipro are slowly strangled, until their logistics collapse, until they have no choice but to evacuate or face encirclement, until Kherson can be liberated. But whether this systematic destruction of bridges was brilliant Ukrainian strategy from the start, or whether it was adaptation that emerged after initial strikes revealed Russian vulnerability, or whether both sides stumbled into a campaign neither fully anticipated, determines what the Antonovsky Bridge strikes actually represent in the war. This is Military Report, where we analyze the battles that change wars. Antonovsky Bridge. Antonovsky Mist in Ukrainian. Построен in 1985 году. Soviet-era concrete bridge. 1,366 meters long. 4 lanes for vehicle traffic. Connects Kherson city on west bank of Dnipro to Nova Kakhovka and Crimea on east bank. Pre-war traffic, civilian, commercial, normal infrastructure. February to July 2022. Russian military logistics artery. Critical strategic asset. Target. Strategic importance cannot be overstated. Dnipro River is 2 to 3 kilometers wide at Kherson. Major obstacle. Cannot be easily crossed. Limited crossing points. Antonovsky Bridge is main crossing. Also, Antonovsky Railway Bridge, parallel to road bridge, carries trains. Nova Kakhovka Dam, 60 kilometers upstream, has road crossing. These 3 crossings are only practical routes for heavy logistics between east and west banks. Lose them, and Russian forces west of Dnipro are cut off. Russian forces west of Dnipro, July 2022. Approximately 25,000 to 30,000 troops, holding Kherson city, occupying western bank, defending against Ukrainian pressure. These forces require 200 to 300 tons of supplies daily, ammunition, fuel, food, water, medical equipment. Must cross Dnipro via bridges. No alternatives exist. Ferries and pontoon bridges can supplement but cannot replace bridge capacity. The mathematical reality is brutal. Lose bridges, lose the ability to sustain forces. Lose ability to sustain forces, lose the forces. Ukrainian HIMARS capability, July 2022. Ukraine has received HIMARS from United States. M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. Mobile. Accurate. Long range. Fires M31 guided rockets, range 70 to 80 kilometers. GPS guided. Accuracy within 5 to 10 meters. can strike precisely, can strike from a Ukrainian-controlled territory without exposing launcher to counterfire, can strike repeatedly, and can strike Antonovsky Bridge. 3 questions. We'll answer them at the end. Was the systematic targeting of Antonovsky Bridge part of comprehensive Ukrainian strategy to isolate and liberate Kherson, or was it tactical opportunity that evolved into strategic campaign? Could Russia have prevented the bridge destruction through better air defense, rapid repairs, or alternative logistics? Or was the position west of Dnipro fundamentally indefensible once HIMARS arrived? And the critical one, did destroying Antonovsky Bridge directly cause Russian withdrawal from Kherson, or was it one factor among many that made Russian position untenable? Ukrainian official narrative, deliberate campaign. Plan from moment HIMARS arrived. Systematic targeting to isolate Russian forces. Force withdrawal. Liberate Kherson. This narrative emphasizes Ukrainian strategic thinking and operational art. Makes victory seem inevitable result of good planning. Russian official narrative. Tactical setback. Bridges were damaged but not destroyed. Alternative crossings maintained logistics. Withdrawal was voluntary gesture of goodwill. This narrative minimizes Ukrainian success and Russian defeat. Makes retreat seem like Russian choice rather than forced by circumstances. Reality is probably between extremes and more complex than either side admits publicly, because what actually happened reveals both Ukrainian adaptation and Russian vulnerability in ways that challenge both narratives. Stay with me. What happens in the weeks after first HIMARS strike reveals this wasn't smooth execution of master plan. It was evolution, learning, adaptation, and the story is more interesting because of it. July 20th, 2022. Morning after first strike. Ukrainian forces assess damage. Satellite imagery. Drone reconnaissance. Reports from partisans in Kherson. Antonovsky Bridge is damaged. Multiple craters in bridge deck. But bridge is not destroyed. Structural integrity is compromised, but intact. Russian forces are conducting emergency repairs, bringing in engineering equipment, filling craters, reinforcing structure. Within hours, some traffic is moving across bridge again. Slowly, carefully, but moving. Ukrainian command faces decision. Was this success? Bridge is damaged but usable. Russian logistics are disrupted but not severed. Do we strike again immediately to prevent repairs? Wait and gather intelligence on Russian repair capabilities? Prioritize other targets? The decision matters because HIMARS ammunition is limited. Each strike costs 6 M31 rockets at $168,000 each, over $1 million per strike. Cannot waste ammunition on ineffective targeting. July 27th, second strike. Another HIMARS strike on Antonovsky Bridge. More damage. More craters. Bridge is closed to heavy traffic. Russian forces can only use light vehicles. Logistics flow is severely reduced, but still not completely stopped. Russia continues repairs. Brings in more equipment. Works around the clock. The pattern is emerging. Ukraine strikes. Russia repairs. Ukraine strikes again. Russia repairs again. Question is, who exhausts first? Ukrainian ammunition or Russian repair capability? August to September 2022. The campaign intensifies. Ukrainian forces expand targeting not just Antonovsky Road Bridge, but also Antonovsky Railway Bridge, struck multiple times, eventually rendered unusable. Nova Kakhovka Dam crossing, struck, damaged, reduces capacity. Pontoon bridges Russian forces construct, struck when detected, destroyed. The strategy becomes clear. Deny Russians all crossing options. Force them to rely on ferries, slow, limited capacity, vulnerable. Make sustaining 25,000 to 30,000 troops west of Dnipro impossible. Russian countermeasures. Measure 1. Air defense. Deploy more Panzer and Tor systems around bridges. Attempt to shoot down HIMARS rockets. Success rate is limited. HIMARS rockets are fast, small radar cross-section, difficult targets. Some are intercepted. Most get through. Measure 2. Rapid repairs. Dedicate engineering units to bridge repairs. Stockpile materials. Conduct repairs immediately after strikes. Sometimes restore limited functionality within hours, but cannot fully repair before next strike. Playing losing game. Damage accumulates faster than repairs can fix. Measure 3. Alternative crossings. Build pontoon bridges. Use ferries. Attempt helicopter resupply. These work partially. Reduce but don't eliminate supply crisis. Pontoons are vulnerable to artillery and HIMARS when detected. Ferries are slow. Helicopters are expensive and limited capacity. None can replace bridge capacity. Measure 4. Reduce forces. Begin withdrawing some units from West Bank. Reduce troop density. Lower supply requirements. This helps logistics, but also weakens defensive positions. Makes military situation worse, even as it improves supply situation. Vicious cycle. Measure 5. Propaganda. Claim bridges are intact and functional. Deny Ukrainian strikes are effective. Maintain morale. Prevent panic. This works for some time, but reality eventually becomes undeniable. By September 2022, Antonovsky Bridge is heavily damaged. Usable only for light vehicles and foot traffic. Antonovsky Railway Bridge is destroyed. Nova Kakhovka crossing is damaged. Russian forces west of Dnipro are receiving 20 to 30% of required supplies. Ammunition is rationed. Fuel is scarce. Food is limited. Medical evacuations are difficult. The pocket is slowly starving. Ukrainian ground operations increase pressure, artillery strikes, infantry probing attacks, psychological operations, not major assaults, not ready yet, but constant pressure, forcing Russians to expend ammunition they can't easily replace. The combination is deadly. Ukrainian HIMARS cuts logistics. Ukrainian ground forces force expenditure. Russian forces are being squeezed. Slowly, methodically, inevitably. This is Military Report. Real tactics. Real consequences. October 2022. The trap closes. Russian forces west of Dnipro face mathematics. Current supply rate cannot sustain 25,000 to 30,000 troops. Artillery ammunition lasts perhaps 2 to 3 weeks at current expenditure. Fuel lasts similar time frame. Food is rationed. Medical supplies are critical. Options 1. Evacuate forces while evacuation is still possible. 2. Commit to defending Kherson and hope supplies can be sustained. 3. Continue current approach and risk forces being cut off completely. Ukrainian forces announce Kherson offensive, not subtle, not deceptive. Open announcement. We are coming to liberate Kherson. Begin moving forces toward Kherson sector. Artillery increases. Probing attacks increase. Russian forces know major offensive is coming. Question is, can they sustain defense given supply situation? Russian command assesses. Position west of Dnipro is untenable. Supply situation is critical. Ukrainian offensive will overwhelm defenses if it cannot be resupplied properly. Decision. Prepare for withdrawal. But don't announce yet. Continue claiming bridges are functional. Continue claiming position is defensible. Buy time for evacuation preparations. The deception mirrors Ukrainian deception at Kharkiv, claimed offensive at Kherson while attacking at Kharkiv. Russia now claims defending Kherson while preparing evacuation. November 9, 2022, Russia announces withdrawal from Kherson. Claims it is gesture of goodwill and tactical regrouping. Reality. Forced evacuation because position became indefensible after bridges were destroyed and supplies were exhausted. November 10 to 11, Russian forces evacuate. Destroy remaining bridges and ferries behind them. November 11th, Ukrainian forces enter Kherson. City is liberated. Antonovsky Bridge role in liberation, direct impact, made sustaining Russian forces impossible. Forced withdrawal. Without HIMARS strikes on bridges, Russian forces could have remained supplied, could have defended longer. might still hold Kherson today. Indirect impact demonstrated Ukrainian ability to strike deep, forced Russia to defend rear areas, diverted resources to air defense and engineering that could have been used offensively elsewhere, changed Russian operational calculus throughout theater. Psychological impact showed Russian forces were vulnerable, that Ukrainian forces had capability to strike precisely, that Western weapons worked. Morale effect was significant on both sides. But bridge strikes alone didn't liberate Kherson. Required Ukrainian ground forces pressuring constantly, Ukrainian artillery degrading Russian positions, Ukrainian intelligence identifying targets, Ukrainian deception operations, Kharkiv fight, Western support providing weapons and intelligence, Russian strategic failures, poor deployment, inadequate air defense, slow adaptation. The bridges were necessary but not sufficient. Victory required all factors together. Total HIMARS strikes on Dnipro crossings, Antonovsky Road Bridge, 10 to 15 strikes, estimates vary. Antonovsky Railway Bridge, 5 to 10 strikes, Nova Kakhovka, Dam Crossing, 3 to 5 strikes, pontoon bridges, multiple strikes, exact number unclear, total HIMARS ammunition expended, approximately 100 to 150 M31 rockets. Cost, $17 to $25 million. Value of result, liberated Kherson City, population 280,000, entire western Dnipro bank, thousands of square kilometers, forced withdrawal of 25,000 to 30,000 Russian troops, strategic victory. Cost-benefit ratio, extraordinarily favorable. Spending $20 million in ammunition to force enemy to abandon major city and strategic position is exceptional return on investment. Could Russia have prevented this outcome? Let's answer the three questions now. Was systematic targeting of Antonovsky Bridge part of comprehensive strategy or tactical opportunity? Both, but weighted toward tactical opportunity that evolved into strategy. Evidence for comprehensive strategy. Ukrainian forces understood Dnipro River geography. New bridges were critical. New HIMARS could strike them. Planning for Kherson liberation began months before execution. Bridge targeting was logical component of any plan to isolate Russian forces west of river. Evidence for tactical opportunity. First strike, July 19th, was not followed immediately by systematic campaign. Took weeks for pattern to emerge. Targeting expanded gradually. Road bridge, then rail bridge, then dam crossing, then pontoons. Ukrainian ground forces didn't begin major operations until October to November, 3 to 4 months after first bridge strike. If comprehensive strategy, ground operations would coordinate more tightly with bridge targeting. Synthesis. Ukrainian command understood bridges were vulnerable and important. Conducted first strike as test. Results exceeded expectations. Bridge was damaged more than anticipated. Russian repairs were slow. Russian air defense was inadequate. This revealed opportunity. Ukrainian forces then systematically exploited opportunity. The strategy emerged from success of tactical strikes rather than being pre-planned comprehensive campaign. This is more impressive, not less. Shows Ukrainian forces can learn, adapt, and escalate successful tactics into operational-level campaigns. Shows intellectual flexibility and operational competence. Pre-planned strategy is good. Adaptive strategy that emerges from exploiting tactical success is excellent. Could Russia have prevented bridge destruction? Probably not prevented completely, but could have reduced effectiveness significantly. Russian failures. Failure 1, inadequate air defense. Russia deployed some Pantsir and Tor systems, but insufficient to reliably intercept HIMARS rockets. Should have deployed more systems earlier in greater density. But resources were limited and air defense was needed everywhere. Prioritization failure. Failure 2, slow repairs. Russian engineering response was reactive, not proactive. Waited for strikes, then tried to repair. Should have pre-positioned materials, had plans ready, conducted repairs faster. But engineering resources were limited. Corruption and inefficiency slowed response. Systemic failure. Failure 3, no alternative infrastructure. Russia didn't build redundant crossing capacity before bridges came under attack. Should have constructed multiple pontoon bridges, ferry sites, underwater crossings while still possible, but didn't prioritize this. Only attempted after bridges damaged. Too late. Failure 4. Poor dispersion. Russian logistics were concentrated. Large convoys using bridges at predictable times. Made targeting easier. Should have dispersed logistics, used night operations, varied timing. But logistics system wasn't sophisticated enough to execute this. Operational failure. Failure 5. Strategic miscalculation. Russia didn't anticipate HIMARS would be used this way. Thought HIMARS would target troop concentrations or command posts. Didn't expect systematic infrastructure targeting. By the time they recognized the pattern, damage was done. Intelligence failure. Better Russian response might have intercepted 30 to 50% of HIMARS rockets instead of 10 to 20%. Reduced per-strike damage through rapid repairs. Maintained 60 to 70% logistics capacity instead of 20 to 30%. Made position west of Dnipro defensible longer. Delayed inevitable, but probably not prevented it. The strategic situation, holding territory across major river against enemy with precision weapons, was fundamentally unfavorable. And the critical question, did destroying bridges directly cause Kherson withdrawal? Yes and no. Bridges were necessary, but not sufficient cause. Complete explanation requires multiple factors. Factor 1. Bridge destruction, 40 to 50% of causation, made logistics impossible. Created supply crisis. Without this, other factors wouldn't matter. Russian forces could sustain defense indefinitely. This is primary cause. Factor 2. Ukrainian ground pressure, 20 to 30%, forced Russian forces to expend ammunition and supplies they couldn't replace. Without ground pressure, Russian forces could have reduced supply needs and sustained with degraded logistics. Combined with bridge strikes, created unsustainable situation. Factor 3. Strategic geometry, 10 to 20%. Russian forces west of Dnipro were insalient. Exposed on 3 sides. Backed against river. Poor defensive position even with good logistics. Bridge strikes made bad position untenable. Factor 4. Time, 10 to 20%. Months-long campaign exhausted Russian stockpiles west of river. Degraded positions. Eroded morale. Allowed Ukrainian forces to build up for offensive. Time accumulated disadvantages until Russian position collapsed. Factor 5. Russian command decisions, 10 to 15%. Russia chose to hold Kherson as long as possible despite deteriorating situation. Earlier withdrawal would have been less costly. Delayed withdrawal made evacuation more difficult and losses higher. Command stubbornness amplified impact of other factors. All factors necessary. Remove anyone, outcome might be different. But bridge destruction is plurality cause. Most important single factor. Without HIMARS strikes on bridges, Kherson probably still under Russian control today. Therefore, Antonovsky Bridge strikes were decisive. Not solely decisive, but primary cause of Russian withdrawal and Ukrainian liberation of Kherson. The quiz answer: what made Antonovsky Bridge strikes strategically decisive? Combination of precision, persistence, and position. 50 to 60% weight. Precision, HIMARS accuracy allowed striking bridges without destroying them completely initially. Created sustained campaign rather than single catastrophic strike. Forced Russia into repair-strike-repair cycle that exhausted resources and morale. Persistence, Ukrainian forces struck repeatedly. Month after month. Didn't allow Russian forces to adapt or find stable solution. Maintained pressure until logistics collapsed completely. Position. Russian forces west of Dnipro were geographically vulnerable. Limited crossings. No alternatives. This geography made bridge strikes strategically decisive rather than just tactically annoying. Single factor alone, insufficient. Precision without persistence allows enemy to adapt. Persistence without precision wastes ammunition. Good position for attack without precision and persistence doesn't matter. Combination is decisive. This is lesson in modern warfare. Exploit enemy geographic vulnerability with precision weapons applied persistently. Creates strategic effects from tactical actions. This is Military Report. Subscribe to Military Report. Because preparation defeats improvisation. July to November 2022. Antonovsky Bridge Campaign Summary. Ukrainian Strategy. Systematic targeting of Dnipro crossings to isolate Russian forces. HIMARS strikes. 20 to 30 plus on all crossings combined. Ammunition expended, 100 to 150 M31 rockets, $17 to $25 million. Timeline, 4+ months of sustained strikes. Russian forces affected, 25,000 to 30,000 troops west of Dnipro. Russian supply reduction from 100% to 20 to 30% capacity. Russian response. Inadequate air defense, slow repairs, insufficient alternatives. Russian outcome. Forced withdrawal. November 2022. Ukrainian liberation. Kherson City and Western Dnipro Bank. Strategic impact. Major Russian defeat. Major Ukrainian victory cost benefit. Exceptionally favorable for Ukraine. The campaign that proved precision weapons systematically applied can achieve strategic effects. Geography matters. Rivers are serious obstacles. Logistics is vulnerability. Enemy cannot sustain forces it cannot supply. Modern warfare principles remain valid. Lessons for militaries worldwide. Identify enemy geographic vulnerabilities, river crossings, choke points. Exploit vulnerabilities with precision weapons systematically. Persistence matters. Single strikes rarely decisive. Logistics is more important than firepower. Cannot defend what cannot be supplied. Adaptive strategy emerging from tactical success is powerful. Was Antonovsky Bridge campaign Ukraine's most effective use of HIMARS? Strong case. Other HIMARS successes. Ammunition depot strikes, tactical. Command post strikes, operational. Antonovsky campaign, strategic. Changed war's map. Liberated major city. This is highest level of impact. What would you have done differently? As Ukraine, strike earlier if possible. Strike more intensively if ammunition allowed. Coordinate ground offensive more closely with bridge targeting. As Russia, withdraw forces from West Bank immediately when bridges came under attack. July. Avoid losses. Establish defensive line on East Bank. Accept territorial loss to preserve forces. Stubbornness was expensive. The bridge that was struck 10 to 15 times. The river that became barrier Russia couldn't cross. The logistics that collapsed. The forces that had to retreat. The city that was liberated. All because HIMARS rockets destroyed concrete and steel. Systematically. Persistently. Decisively. This is Military Report. Subscribe. Because we break down the battles that textbooks will study for decades. July 19th, 2022. First strike. November 11th, 2022. Liberation. 115 days. That's how long it took. From first HIMARS impact on Antonovsky Bridge to Ukrainian forces entering Kherson. 4 months of systematic destruction. Bridge strikes. Repairs. More strikes. More repairs. Until repairs couldn't keep pace. Until logistics collapsed. Until Russian forces had no choice but to leave. The campaign that didn't look like campaign at first. Looked like tactical strike. Then another. Then another. Until pattern emerged. Until strategy crystallized. Until 25,000 to 30,000 Russian troops were trapped west of Dnipro with no supplies. Until only option was evacuate or surrender. Antonovsky Bridge. Where American HIMARS met Soviet-era concrete. Where precision defeated mass. Where $25 million in ammunition forced withdrawal of entire Russian army group. Where Kherson's liberation began. Not with ground assault. Not with urban warfare. But with patient systematic destruction of 1.4 kilometers of bridge. Strike. Repair. Strike. Repair. Until the bridge died. And Russian occupation died with it. Stay vigilant.